Welcome to 1984 Behind the Scenes. I'm Clyde Lewis. Oh, did I say 1984? I'm sorry. This is Ground Zero Behind the Scenes. Yes, today is a very, very interesting day because of all the reporting that I've been doing on all kinds of strange stories in the news. And I find it very interesting that all of these stories that I've been talking about have been avoided by the mainstream media. Isn't that a surprise? As a matter of fact, I'm beginning to wonder if I'm losing my mind. I'm beginning to wonder if I'm in 1984 because I can't seem to get any of these stories out of the mainstream. Last night I did a report about Kellogg, Brown, and Root going online with their camps, and there are a lot of people who say there are no camps, no FEMA camps, no places to put people and detain them, although the document that has been released says they're preparing for detainment of up to 200 to 3,000 people at any one of the 5 regions that are there in the United States. We'll talk more about that later, but in the meantime, I have something I want to show you. So after all the things I've been reporting, I've realized that you better watch out because Big Brother is actually monitoring and changing the news. I have an example of this, and that is this cover. This is Time Magazine's cover from December 5th. It's called Time, Why Anxiety is Good for You. I saw this cover at a Chinese restaurant. The guy there is obsessed with magazines doing about news. And so I decided to look through it, and as I read, I got angrier and angrier because it seemed to me that they were trying to cover up the fact that there was a lot of problem in the world. There's a lot of things going on that we need to be aware of and a lot of things that are happening, and I've been reporting them, and a lot of people are saying there's nothing happening, you're overreacting. Well, with stuff like this, I can see why people think I'm overreacting because this says that there's really nothing to worry about. Anxiety is great for you. It's like war is peace, ignorance is strength. It's like that 1984 stuff. Well, I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was living in some stupid parallel of Orwellian disproportion or whatever. So I decided to go and look it up on Google. And when I did, I saw that this cover was there, and a lot of other people were angry too. After doing much discovering and much studying, I found out that this is the cover that they ran everywhere else. It's a cover of a man in the revolution, and it's Revolution Redux. Months after ousting Mubarak, Egyptians are now rebelling against military rule. I saw this, but up here it says, relax, anxiety is good for you. So this is what the rest of the world got, and this is what we got. A nice little story about how we need to be okay with the anxiety, frustration, and all the other problems we're feeling now. And see, this is what bothers me, is they're putting a nice little coat, a nice little sugar coating on everything. That the idea here is that if we sugarcoat things, people will realize that the war's not real, the detainment camps aren't real, all this stuff, Clyde, you talk about is not real. When you have the mainstream doing this to you, there's no way that you're going to be able to get the information out where people will say, oh yeah, I heard about this on Ground Zero. And this is what's really frustrating me. I did some more studying, and I found out that the biggest story that's been censored for the year 2011 is that soldiers who come back from the war are killing themselves, and more soldiers are killing themselves and more are dying than they did in combat. I'm thinking it's just more fodder for what I have to say is, is it wrong to deliver bad news? Is it wrong to keep the empire honest? Is it wrong to report that this war is ruining people? Is it wrong to report that these camps are not right? That this whole thing about passing Senate 1867, the Articles 1031 and 1032, the idea of detaining people, the idea of turning this place into a battlefield, is there something wrong with reporting this? Am I overreacting? I don't think I'm overreacting, and I think that more and more people need to realize that this stuff is real. What you're looking at there is the KBR report that I talked about last night, the Kellogg, Brown, and Root asking for contractors to move in and support their little FEMA camps. And right here you're seeing that they've divided the United States into 5 different sections. Each section has a camp, and each camp can hold anywhere between 300 and 2,000 people. Now tell me that this whole document is a fabrication when they issued it to a number of people, a number of contractors to get the ball rolling. And then, of course, last night Tracy Twyman was on the program, and she was telling us about the mass burials happening where ashes of 1,600 people were buried in L.A. mass grave, and more military remains are sent to landfills in Virginia. And that's another thing that's really sad. You're hearing about these soldiers that are dying, but what do we do to them? We take their bodies and we throw them in landfills. Where's the story? This is all being reported on the internet. It's all being reported in the national news or the international news, but it's not happening here in the mainstream, and I believe that it needs to be talked about. The enemy of your government is question, and it seems to me that anyone who questions is told that they're overreacting or fear-mongering, and I'm tired of getting that label, and I want people to wake up and understand that it's not okay to be fearful. It's not okay to be unprepared. You need to be prepared, and you need to be strong, because this is what's happening. Things are changing, and I wish we could somehow grasp the spirit of like Woodward and Bernstein, where back in the days of Watergate, they exposed the Nixon administration for the criminal element that was inside that administration. There are criminal elements in Washington now, and I want to play you a scene. This is a scene with Jason Robards from that movie, All the President's Men, to remind you of the spirit of what it is to be a good mainstream news broadcasting entity. And here it is.
I happen to love this country. You know, we're not a bunch of zanies out to bring it down.
Harry, weren't you arguing the opposite way?
No, not at all. One thing has nothing to do with the other.
Hold it. We're about to accuse Haldeman, who only happens to be the second most important man in this country, of conducting a criminal conspiracy from inside the White House. It would be nice if we were right.
You double-check your sources.
Is that right?
Bernstein, are you sure on this story?
Absolutely.
Woodward?
I'm sure.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero Behind the Scenes.